Lucy's Kitchen, it's Lucy's Kitchen. She's Lucy and she's got a kitchen. Lucy's Kitchen.
And now that we've got your attention, let's cook. Hi there. Welcome to Lucy's Kitchen. I'm Lucy, and this is my kitchen. I'm really excited today. We're going to make beef hand pies. Pie that you can hold in your hand with beef in it. What could be better? Your whole family is going to love this savory, tasty dish. There's nothing new about wrapping meat in pastry. I'm sure it's been done for hundreds of years. But legend has it that hand pies were invented by coal miners' wives who would make these little pies with meat and potatoes and all the good nutritious things that their husbands needed to eat when they were working in the coal mines. And they give it to them wrapped in a napkin. The husband would stuff it in his pocket and he'd have lunch whenever it was possible for him to eat. Well, that's a humble food. Truly, they come from a humble beginning. But if you really think about it, hand pies have a lot in common with beef Wellington too. Meat, pastry. It's really great. So today we're going to do sort of a fancier version of the coal miner hand pie. We're going to make one with mushrooms, beef, potatoes, and onions, of course, plenty of onions. So let's go over our ingredients. First of all, use a really good quality beef. Now, this beef is an 85% beef, meaning that it has 15% is fat. That sounds like a lot. It isn't. It's barely enough for this because you really want it to be juicy. If you use a lean cut of meat, that's okay. But just remember, when you actually eat the pie might be a little bit dry. So I like this kind. And this is a really good grade of beef. Next, I've got my mushrooms. Now, this is about a half a pound of mushrooms. And then we want them to be really small once they cook. This is I've really kind of cut them in half and then sort of slice them so that they'd be fairly small. They'll cook down when we cook everything. And of course our onions. I took one large, and I used a sweet onion, but any kind of onion will do. I chopped it very, I would say I diced it very small because you don't want big chunks of things in your hand pie. You want it to be edible without food falling out of it. I've got some carrots, and this is about a half a cup of carrots. Carrots are just for color and for nutrition. The original coal miners' pies didn't have them. They had rutabagas. They also didn't have mushrooms. They basically had potatoes and rutabagas and beef. That's about it. Well, ours is going to be a little bit better than that. So these are 2 Yukon Gold potatoes, which I've diced into, I would say about 1/4 inch dice, maybe even smaller. Again, I want this to cook. And then, of course, our savories. I've got a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, a teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon and a half of salt, and then I have some dried thyme, about a half a teaspoon. I'm going to add a bay leaf while I'm cooking everything because it gives it such a lovely flavor, but then I'm going to pull it out before I start to make the pies. So in some traditions, hand pies are filled with uncooked meats and vegetables, and then they're rolled up and sealed and baked for an hour and a half, and eventually the vegetables do cook and the meat cooks. But in my case, I want to take a shortcut. I mein, this is quick and easy. This is so that you have this ready to go, and frankly, you're going to be able to put some of these in the freezer. So I'm going to cook everything in advance. I'm not going to cook it all the way through. I'm going to sort of par cook it. Everything's going to be cooked through. The meat's going to be browned, but I'm not going to end up with any kind of, hard vegetables or uncooked meat. And we want that. We want that ease, and we want our pies to be crispy and delicious. And then when you open them up, just a savory, wonderful, delicious filling. So we're going to take all of our ingredients over to the stove and start sauteing. And so meet me over there. Well, here we are ready to start sauteing the vegetables. I'm going to, I've heated my pan a little bit, and it's getting warm. I'm going to add some olive oil. as soon as this olive oil is shimmery, which it is, I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of butter, and then I'm adding the butter for flavor. There we go. And as soon as that's melted, first thing I'm going to add are my onions. We'll just add the onions. And I'm doing all of this on high because we're going to add a lot of vegetables very rapidly. I don't want to lose the heat from the pan. As soon as the onions give off that like buttery, oniony fragrance, you know it's time to go to the next vegetable, which is our potatoes. We're going to want our potatoes to be cooked through. So it's a combination of the cooking time in the pan and the cooking time in the oven. We're going to cook this until the potatoes are al dente. As soon as I start seeing a little bit of action, I'm going to add the mushrooms. Now the mushrooms are especially going to be great because they'll give off some liquid, and then that will actually help to steam everything a little bit as well. So we're just going to stir this around for a couple minutes. And I keep dropping stuff on the floor. Oh well. This is when I wish I had a dog. Okay, here we go. Our carrots. It's very attractive, isn't it? I love this combination of flavors. And it smells amazing. Okay, so before I add the mushrooms, I'm going to add my bay leaf. I'm going to stir it around a little bit so it can give off some of its delicious flavor oils. And then I've got this thyme, and I recommend that when you use any dried herb that you squish it a little bit with your fingers and just kind of grind it, because that helps release some of the flavor as well. You don't really know how long dried herbs have been there. If you're like me, well, you've got a lot of them sitting around because I like to use a lot of different herbs. So there's my half teaspoon of thyme, and now I'm going to, okay, this is excellent. So what's happening now is it's starting to kind of stick to the bottom, not stick in a bad way, just a little bit. And that means we need more liquid. But since we're sauteing these, we really don't want to add any liquid. So I'm going to add my mushrooms. And once we have these babies going, we'll get a lot of liquid. So mushrooms. Throw that back in. And now I'm going to turn the heat down just a little because that'll encourage the mushrooms to give up some of their juice. This is going to be amazing. I know some people who make extra. In fact, I'm one of them. Extra filling, because then you can eat it like with rice. You can add it to pasta. So there's no harm in having plenty of filling. Encourage this now to steam a little bit. So I'm going to put the lid on the pan and turn it to low, and I'm going to let it sit for about a minute. So don't be afraid to lift the lid and check it. You're looking for a little bit of moisture to kind of deglaze the bottom of the pan, and that moisture is going to come from our vegetables sweating. So again, it's the mushrooms and the onions actually that have a lot of moisture, and they're sweating when you cover it like this and turn it to low. And then I'm going to take my knife point and find one of these little potatoes. Whoops! I guess we're ready to bake. And take my knife point and Okay, so these little potatoes, because I diced them so small, they're already getting tender. So that's excellent. Now I'm going to add the beef. I'm going to set that down and turn this up. And just add it to the middle. Okay. Okay, I'm going to use my other trusty tool. These silicone spatulas are really handy. And this one in particular, because it's not sharp, so it doesn't mess up your pan, but it does a really nice job of chopping up the meat. All right, so the meat is almost, actually it is completely browned. We're not trying to cook this. I mean, we're cooking it, but we're just par cooking it, as I said before. So it looks great. As soon as the meat is browned, you're probably good to go. And at this point, well, sometimes your meat sticks to the bottom, but this is very juicy. So I'm going to just add some sherry for flavor. You can use white wine. You could even use a dark beer. It'd be great. Stout. You only need half a cup at the most, and that just adds the most wonderful little flavor. So we're going to do that. I'm going to add the salt and pepper and the salt. And I'm going to add about a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. So I'm going to just kind of measure it. I don't want to overdo it. And I'm going to add about a quarter cup of chopped parsley. Mix that all together. And turn the heat all the way down, just so it kind of melts together. We want to taste the seasonings. So I'm just going to grab a little taste, see how we're doing. Yum. Oh, that is so good. Oh my God. It's fantastic. I'll tell you what, that little bit of Worcestershire sauce, you barely can taste it. I mean, you really can't taste it, but it adds just so much. The thyme and this bay leaf, which I'm going to pull out in a second, they are amazing. Let's see what we got here. So my bay leaf is covered with seasoning, so I'm kind of squishing it away. All right, we're done. So now the important thing is to let this cool, because you don't want to put hot filling into your pastry, or your pastry is just going to melt. So we have to let this cool for a while. You can pour it into a bowl if you want. You can leave it in the pan. Just take it off the heat and make sure that you've given yourself about 15 minutes at least, or maybe even a little bit longer. You'll be able to tell when it's ready. It doesn't have to be cold. It just has to be cooled off enough so it doesn't melt the pastry. So meet me over at the counter and we'll talk about the pastry. Okay, so while your filling is cooling, perfect time to make your pastry. Now, if you want to make homemade pastry and you've got a great recipe and you're really looking for just a project to do, go for it. But I'm into shortcuts today, and I'm looking for quick and easy, so I used store-bought pie crust. Now, pie crust comes in a box with 2 pie crusts, and that will make 6 of our little hand pies. I'm going to show you how to do it. First of all, bring it to room temperature. That's essential. Then divide each piece into thirds. So, you got this round thing, and just kind of estimate. You want them to be pretty close though. Then you roll it in a ball and make sure that it sticks together and it's kind of like Play-Doh. So this little ball I kind of pat it. And then I take my rolling pin and I just start rolling. You can use a little flour if your dough is sticky. This dough, for some reason, isn't sticky. So I'm not using any flour. I'm just lifting it, picking it up, and rolling. What I'm trying to get here is a fairly even 6-inch circle. And everything's sliding around, but ignore that. I would do it on my counter, but I think you can see it better on this board. So just gently do it. But you know what? It goes very fast. And that is a little bit small. I'm going to just do one more go round. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to be big enough to hold your filling with enough edge to crimp it. Okay, so we're going to take our egg wash and I'm going to brush a little bit around the edge of this pastry. You don't have to do this, but if you do, it probably will stick together better and you'll have a better result, a more dependable result. Now here's my filling, looking gorgeous. I'm going to stir it one more time to make sure all the remaining juice is well distributed. Ideally, I'm going to use, well, we're going to try and experiment. I have 1/3 of a cup and I have 1/2 a cup. We're going to see whether we can get 1/2 cup of filling in here. And again, I'm talking about what they call a scant 1/2 cup. So it's not like brimming to the top. Technically, I guess that's somewhere between 1/2 and 1/3. All right, I'm just going to put it right in the middle and set this aside. Kind of push that over. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take this beautiful pastry and you're going to fold it over. And because it's soft, it has a lot of give. And our egg wash is going to stick it together nicely. So now that we've got it kind of stuck together, we're going to crimp it. And this is it's a technique that they use everywhere that they make these little meat pies. So I'm just pressing, I don't know if you can see this, pressing down and then smushing, okay? And then you press and smush. And you lift and press and smush. And you go all the way around and do that. Woo. And I don't know, I hope you can still see this, because when I turn it around, you'll see what I mean. Lovely little package. Pat it down a little bit and turn that up. In fact, I'm going to smush it like that. Okay, so you've got a little smushy darling. Isn't it cute? Don't you love that? I can't wait to eat it once it's cooked. I'm going to put it on my parchment lined cookie sheet and then well, I'll show you. So yeah, light a cookie sheet with parchment. It's going to be the best way to do it. And then we'll go on to our next one. So again, this was rolled. In fact, if you want to, you can just roll them a little bit to make them more flexible. So I did a whole bunch of these before we started filming because I wanted to have them done. But, you know, I found out how easy it was. I could have done them all on camera. And so then we're going to take our egg wash again, just roll it around. And, okay, so again, you're going to just kind of push the filling into the center and just roll this over, catch the edge, and push it down so it sticks. All right, and then we're going to do the crimping. So you start with your, I think we'll do it this way today. This one we'll do this way. Okay, press and crimp. Crimp. can just, looks like you can really just do one finger. And it makes a just beautiful border. Believe it or not, I've never done this before. So we're all learning how to do it. Look at that. That one's even prettier. Okay, that's it. Now, I'm going to bring this up here. And what I'm going to do, see this pan of, they're sliding around, but anyway, they're really lovely. So I'm going to just take my egg wash now, and the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I get plenty of it on where I pressed, because I want to make sure that that seals up. And if there's anything that's going to keep it from opening up, it'll be this egg. So we're going to do that on all of them. Make sure it gets lots and lots of egg on there. And on here as well. Okay. And there we go. Okay, so once you've got the edge done, because that's super important, then you can brush egg over the whole thing. And that's going to give us a beautiful brown pastry. It's just going to be golden brown. Beautiful. And crispy, and it's going to be what holds it together. And by that I mean it's going to hold the pastry when you're devouring it later. Okay, they're gorgeous. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to put them in the oven at 350, and we're going to cook them till they're golden brown, and I will see you when they're done. Welcome back. Here we are. We've cooked them for 45 minutes at 350, and they are perfectly golden brown. I'm going to just cut one open here, and let's take a look at the filling. Oh, it's crispy and crunchy, and look at that. Oh my God, is that beautiful. So if you have 2 little children, they can share one. Now, this is not a knife and fork dish, as you know. This is a hand pie, beef hand pie, and it's coal miner's dream. So I'm going to just take a taste. I know it's going to be delicious. I can just tell by smelling it. Wow. Crust is incredibly flaky. The filling is amazing, quite savory, beautifully seasoned. I'd say it's perfect. Well, that's it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We appreciate you joining us, and come back next time for more delicious recipes from my kitchen to yours.